They are the aircraft that once triumphed in wartime, proud veterans from an era when courageous air crews fought in the skies. Today, they serve as windows into the past, capable of transporting those at the controls back to an age of propellers, jets, emergencies, and heroic deeds, all at the twist of a throttle or the pull of a stick. Yet the fight for these airplanes' survival continues long after their final combat sorties. All across Britain, in hangars large and small, skilled engineers, volunteers, and aviation enthusiasts wage a constant battle against time, corrosion, and the challenge of finding ever scarcer spare parts. Their aim is never merely to place these storied planes in a static museum display. Instead, they strive to return them to the skies they once roamed so freely. From the legendary D-Day veterans to the cutting-edge jump jets of the modern era, from early life-saving machines to Edwardian flying contraptions, each airplane has an epic story to tell. Keeping them airborne requires money, dedication, grit, and sometimes a fair bit of luck. Parts can cost millions, and the maintenance itself can demand long hours in freezing hangars, wrench in hand, braving cold steel and stiff screws. Despite the hardship, the men and women who labor on these relics share an unwavering passion for historic military aviation. They cherish the moment an old prop or rotor spins once again, and the roar of an engine echoes through the skies, stirring the memories of onlookers old enough to remember their heyday. This is the context in which we encounter a special project, the colossal effort to restore a once iconic life-saving helicopter known as the Westland Sea King. Among Britain's most celebrated rotary wing aircraft, the Sea King served in search and rescue (SAR) missions, plucking imperiled mariners from stormy seas and stranded hikers from inaccessible mountains. Over a remarkable service life spanning decades, it saved countless lives. But after official retirement from frontline duties, many airframes faced uncertain futures. Some were sold abroad, some mothballed, and others in danger of scrapping. Yet a determined team of ex-military personnel and keen aviation aficionados refused to let this proud helicopter fade away. Instead, they embarked on a journey to give it fresh life. Their story unfolds in the West Country, where an unlikely combination of stables and hangars house a growing collection of vintage rotorcraft. Horses graze in nearby fields, while under the same roof, mechanics tinker with turbines and rotor heads. The scene is unconventional, part equestrian facility, part aircraft workshop. Yet for Andrew Whitehouse, an Army veteran who once specialized in heavy machinery, it fits perfectly. Along with his partner Jane, he has transformed an empty field into a specialized facility called Historic Helicopters, dedicated to resurrecting old helos that once formed the backbone of British military aviation. Andrew's dream has already produced results. A restored Westland Wessex from the 1960s has returned to the skies, earning applause at air shows. Now, he sets his sights on an even greater challenge. The RAF Sea King with tail number 597, which began its career in the 1970s. This hulk of metal, rescued from a scrapper's yard, arrived in corroded sections. Missing rotors, stripped instrumentation, and worn-out wiring loom around every corner. Still, Andrew's determination, shared by Chief Engineer Dave Wells and a dedicated group of ex-RAF mechanics, prevails. If all goes according to plan, 597 will fly again, showcasing the Sea King's historic role in global search and rescue operations and enabling an all-female flight crew to inspire the next generation. A Royal Air Force legend. The Sea King's lineage is impressive. Based on an American Sikorsky design, the British assembled versions incorporated crucial modifications for local conditions and specialized missions. Throughout its multi-decade lifespan, the Sea King excelled in anti-submarine warfare, troop transport, and most famously, search and rescue. Countless distress calls ended with the comforting sight of a bright yellow RAF Sea King hovering overhead. From harrowing rescues in mountainous terrain to dramatic hoists in gale-force winds at sea, these aircraft carried specialized crews, pilot, co-pilot, radar, navigator, and a winch operator or winchman, who executed countless life-saving missions under punishing conditions. Among its heroic exploits, The Sea King's rescue of stranded villagers in Boscastle, Cornwall, during the catastrophic 2004 flash flood stands out. A freak storm unleashed torrents of water, washing away buildings and cars. RAF and Royal Navy Sea Kings descended on the devastated area, hoisting people from rooftops. Many credited these helicopters with preventing major loss of life. Crew member Steve Ward was on one of those Boscastle missions, acting as navigator and hoist operator. Now retired, he recalls perching at the Sea King's open door, harnessed in, controlling the cable that lifted frightened citizens. He vividly remembers swirling waters, drifting vehicles with headlights on, and the adrenaline surge of saving people moments before entire structures collapsed into the flood. He can hardly believe the helicopter that performed those feats is the same one that now sits in Andrew's hangar, awaiting the next phase of its aviation journey. Inside, the hangar, months of meticulous work go into the helicopter's revival. Chief Engineer Dave Wells, who spent years working on Sea Kings when they were still on active duty, commands a small band of fellow veterans and apprentices. Inside the hangar, the 6-ton fuselage rests on jacks. Landing gear assemblies are open for inspection. Fuel tanks and lines, long stagnant, need cleaning, overhaul, or outright replacement. Corrosion must be neutralized before it spreads. Apprentices from a local college gain invaluable hands-on experience, bridging the gap between textbook theory and the gritty reality of large-scale aircraft maintenance. One day in particular reveals the complexity they face. A fuel leak, invisible at first, manifests as dripping fluid on the flight deck. The team scours every line and connector, diagnosing a worn pipe that must be replaced. Even the simplest tasks require unique solutions, from forklift improvisation to specialized tooling. In one instance, they use a forklift to hoist a 200-kilo Rolls-Royce turboshaft engine so they can maneuver it into alignment with the airframe's narrow mounting points. Achieving perfect alignment is crucial. A fraction of a millimeter off, and the bolts will jam. Meanwhile, the cockpit instrument panel offers its own puzzles. Some dials remain intact, others show stuck needles or unresponsive readouts. The vintage computerized warning voice surprisingly still functions, reciting standard phrases like fire warning or undercarriage caution after the team energizes the airframe with an external power supply. There's wonder and relief as the old electronics glow to life, though not without intermittent faults. An artificial horizon stuck in the aircraft is inverted position, for instance, or a fuel gauge suspiciously reading 0 despite hundreds of liters in the tanks. Preparing to soar. Once more months pass, and the transformation accelerates. Rotor heads, transmissions, and newly found blades come together. Paint must be touched up, replacing patches of dullness with the Sea King's distinctive livery. Detailed logbooks must be recreated. An aircraft that spent decades rescuing others now receives a form of rescue itself, from a small group fueled by passion and pride in Britain's aviation legacy. Throughout, Andrew keeps pushing forward. His dream is for the Sea King to become a traveling ambassador, gracing air shows and community events, and capturing hearts as it once did. He imagines day trippers and families watching its rotor spin up, hearing the thunderous engine spool as it rises gracefully into the sky, and remembering the sense of security these helos once offered. But Andrew's vision extends further. He wants the Sea King to pave the way for more women in aviation. Jane, who already flies a smaller turbine helicopter, will undertake extensive training to become a Sea King pilot. Together with other female professionals in the rotorcraft world, they aim to crew the Sea King at major events. Adorned in flight suits, these women would stand beside 597, answering questions and demonstrating that the cockpit is open to anyone with skill and determination. Boscastle revisited. Meanwhile, over in Cornwall, ex-crewman Steve Ward returns to Boscastle's scenic valley. Nearly 2 decades have passed since that terrifying day when floodwaters transformed the tranquil village into a raging torrent. He visits the same roads where water once rushed waist-high, the same rooftops from which he plucked victims. A local couple, whose business and home were decimated, greet him with open arms. They recall the helicopter overhead, the roar of the rotor downwash, and the surge of relief as the winch carried them to safety. Steve, humbled by their gratitude, reiterates the essential truth. None of it would have been possible without the Sea King's reliability and the aircrew's skill. That pivotal moment echoes in the present. At Andrews Hangar, the final stages of 597's restoration come together. The freshly fitted rotor blades, measured and balanced, pass a crucial ground run test. Slowly at first, then with growing momentum, the disc spins overhead as the pilot prepares to lift into a hover. Mechanics stand by, scanning for vibrations or leaks. The occupant seats remain mostly empty, but each one resonates with the memory of thousands of missions. Everyone holds their breath. In a rush of power and a swirl of dust, the Sea King breaks free of gravity, holding steady. A bright cheer rings out. History is airborne once again. A new beginning. Though she will no longer rescue shipwrecked sailors or stranded hikers, 597's mission remains significant. She will be a tangible link to the past, bridging generations at air displays and open days around Britain. Children who see her will learn about the men and women who once hovered over storm-tossed seas, defying gale-force winds to pull strangers from the brink of disaster. They'll discover the engineering marvels that allow an aircraft weighing over 6 tons to hover gracefully on 5 blades. They'll learn about the synergy of pilot, navigator, and winch operator working with absolute trust in each other's abilities. As for Andrew, his ambitions show no signs of waning. He acknowledges that each project is fraught with financial strain and logistical hurdles. But every time he witnesses an old helicopter roar back to life, he looks on with satisfaction, aware that he's preserving not just a machine, but a piece of national heritage. For Dave Wells and the former RAF mechanics, it is likewise a powerful testament to their service. Decades after they initially worked on Sea Kings, they do so again, but this time with the freedom to make decisions on their own timetable, guided by respect for the aircraft's lineage rather than rigid operational schedules. Jane, too, embarks on a personal odyssey. Her training flights intensify, building from simple hovers to flights around the local countryside. She absorbs the helicopter's idiosyncrasies, noting how the rotor disc responds to slight control inputs, or how engine torque surges in demanding maneuvers. Step by step, flight by flight, she closes in on a once elusive dream. Eventually, she will be fully qualified, wearing a bright grin as she lifts the Sea King into the skies, an apt symbol of how far women have come in the realm of aviation. Enduring legacy. For many people, the Sea King remains an icon. In decades past, its distinctive shape and steady rotor beat signaled help was on its way. Entire seaside towns have heard stories of how the bright yellow or dark green helicopter swooped in to locate lost swimmers, rescue stranded climbers, or ferry an ill fisherman to urgent medical care. With each mission, the Sea King made an imprint on the national consciousness, merging utility with heroism. Now, through the skill and dedication of a small circle of veterans and enthusiasts, one such helicopter is poised to continue its story. It may no longer be official military property, but it still belongs to the nation in spirit. Piloted and maintained by individuals who refuse to let these tales of courage fade, the Sea King stands as proof that not all legends must be relegated to dusty museums. Some can keep on flying, offering a living tribute to the men and women who once risked everything to save total strangers. When 597 crosses the sky at an air show or event, the onlookers will see more than an old helicopter. They will witness the resurrection of a storied era. They will watch as the rotor wash kicks up grass and stirs memories. And they'll sense that history is not something confined to textbooks. It is alive, dynamic, powered by real people who choose to preserve it. In that swirling gust of air, children might ask their parents about the old days, about how these helicopters used to appear out of the clouds to change the course of someone's life forever. Parents, in turn, might share recollections of the search and rescue call sign Rescue, or of seeing a bright yellow Sea King sweep over windy beaches, guiding lost souls back to safety. Ultimately, this story captures an essential truth about heritage aviation. It is powered by love, commitment, and a shared desire to keep the past relevant. With each rivet hammered, each wire reattached, and each instrument reawakened, the team forging 597's comeback reminds us that artifacts of war and rescue should not vanish into oblivion. By saving them, we honor not only the machine but also the unsung legions of pilots, engineers, and crew who gave these metal shells their purpose. So, as the Sea King soars anew, it will sing a siren song of history. Stories of peril on rough seas, stories of heartbreak averted, stories of a time when the dividing line between life and death depended on a well-drilled crew and a faithful helicopter. The men and women of historic helicopters can count on applause each time 597 lands at a show. But more importantly, they can rest assured that this piece of Britain's aviation heritage and the memories of those who flew her will continue to inspire future generations. Aloft on spinning blades and guided by unwavering devotion,